Every Friday in the autumn of 1884, Thomas Hale guided his weathered chestnut horse along the dusty road leading into the small frontier town of Ash Creek. The journey never changed, no matter how fierce the wind or how heavy the rain. Folks recognized the quiet cowboy from miles away because his routine had remained untouched for many years, becoming almost legendary among those who watched. Thomas owned one of the smallest cattle ranches outside town. His cabin stood alone against endless rolling plains, surrounded by rough fences, grazing cattle, and ancient oak trees that had survived countless storms. Life on the frontier demanded strength and patience, yet Thomas carried something heavier than hard labor. His silence spoke of a burden that neither time nor distance had managed to erase. Most ranchers entered town laughing with friends, trading horses, buying supplies, or sharing stories from distant trails. Thomas rarely joined their conversations. He tipped his worn hat politely, paid for flour, coffee, lamp oil, and ammunition, then quietly continued toward the oldest flower shop standing beside the white wooden church near the center of town without saying unnecessary words to anyone nearby. The little flower shop belonged to Mrs. Eleanor Brooks, a gentle widow whose hands still arranged bouquets with remarkable care despite her advancing age. Bright wildflowers filled every corner of her tiny store. Their sweet fragrance drifted into the street, creating an unexpected patch of beauty among dusty wagons, muddy boots, and weathered wooden buildings scattered across Ash Creek. Without fail, Thomas always requested the same bouquet. Fresh white roses mixed carefully with blue prairie flowers, tied together using a simple cream-colored ribbon. He never asked for anything larger or more expensive. Mrs. Brooks prepared the arrangement before he even entered, because she knew exactly what the lonely cowboy would choose every single Friday without exception. The townspeople quietly noticed the unusual tradition. Some believed Thomas visited the grave of a beloved wife hidden somewhere beyond the hills. Others whispered that he carried the flowers to a forgotten daughter or an aging mother living far away. No one truly knew the answer because Thomas never encouraged questions, and respectful neighbors eventually stopped asking. Children often watched him from the boardwalk as he carefully accepted each bouquet with surprising gentleness. His rough rancher's hands carried deep scars from ropes, fences, and years beneath the blazing western sun. Yet those same hands held delicate flowers as though they were the most valuable treasure a man could protect from the harshness of life. After leaving the flower shop, Thomas always mounted his horse and disappeared beyond the western hills before sunset. No one ever followed him. Curiosity occasionally tempted younger cowboys, but something about the sadness resting inside Thomas's quiet eyes convinced them to respect his privacy. Every Friday ended exactly as it had begun, wrapped in silence and unanswered mystery. Mrs. Brooks admired Thomas more than she admitted. She had witnessed grief before, having buried her own husband after a terrible winter illness many years earlier. She understood that certain wounds never completely healed. Still, she often wondered whether the weekly flowers comforted Thomas or simply kept an old sorrow alive that should have been gently released. One chilly Friday morning, golden leaves danced across the empty street as Thomas arrived earlier than usual. His horse seemed slower, and his shoulders appeared more tired than before. Mrs. Brooks noticed the difference immediately while preparing the familiar bouquet. She wrapped the roses carefully, studying the cowboy's face as he counted his coins with quiet precision and steady hands. When she placed the bouquet into Thomas's hands, she hesitated for the first time in years. Her kind eyes softened with genuine concern rather than simple curiosity. The question had rested inside her heart through countless Fridays, growing stronger with every passing season. Finally, she gathered enough courage to ask in the gentlest voice she possessed. "Thomas," she said softly, "every Friday you buy these beautiful flowers without fail. I've wrapped them for years, yet I've never known where they finally rest." The cowboy remained perfectly still, his fingers tightening around the ribbon. Mrs. Brooks offered him a compassionate smile before quietly asking the question everyone in Ash Creek had wondered for years: who are they for? Thomas remained silent for several moments, staring at the white roses as though every delicate petal carried a memory too precious to disturb. The busy sounds outside the flower shop slowly faded from his thoughts. Even Mrs. Brooks resisted speaking again, sensing that whatever answer finally emerged had been buried deep inside his heart for years. At last, Thomas released a slow breath and lifted his tired eyes toward the elderly florist. "They are for the woman who promised she would meet me every Friday," he whispered. "She never broke a promise in her life. Then one Friday came, and she never arrived." His voice carried sorrow that time had never softened. Mrs. Brooks felt her own heart grow heavy. She had imagined many stories during the years Thomas visited her little shop, but none prepared her for the quiet pain standing before her. She reached across the wooden counter and gently rested her weathered hand over his, offering comfort without speaking another unnecessary word between them. Thomas thanked her with a faint nod before carefully accepting the bouquet. Every flower reminded him of Emily Carter, the school teacher whose laughter once filled every lonely corner of his life. She had loved white roses because they reminded her that hope remained beautiful, even when growing among dust, hardship, and endless frontier uncertainty together. Years earlier, Thomas and Emily had planned to marry before winter covered the valley with snow. They agreed to meet beside the old cottonwood tree outside town after Emily finished teaching her final lesson that Friday afternoon. Thomas arrived early with flowers, wearing his finest coat and carrying a simple silver ring inside his pocket. The afternoon slowly slipped into evening while Thomas waited beneath the towering branches. Horses passed along distant trails, families returned home, and church bells echoed across the valley. Emily never appeared. As darkness settled over the frontier, worried townsfolk began searching nearby roads, believing perhaps her wagon had broken somewhere beyond the hills before reaching town. The search lasted several exhausting days. Finally, travelers discovered the remains of Emily's overturned wagon beside a swollen river crossing miles away. Heavy autumn rains had washed away part of the narrow trail, leaving little chance for anyone caught there alone. The river claimed her before help could ever reach the lonely crossing that afternoon. Thomas never removed the silver ring from his pocket. Instead, he placed it inside a small wooden box beside Emily's favorite Bible and a faded ribbon she once wore beneath her straw hat. Every Friday afterward, he carried fresh flowers to the cottonwood tree where hope had waited patiently before heartbreak forever changed the direction of his life. Mrs. Brooks listened quietly as tears gathered inside her aging eyes. She finally understood why Thomas had never missed a single Friday, regardless of storms, sickness, or exhausting ranch work. The flowers were never simply gifts. They were promises faithfully kept by a man who refused to let true love disappear beneath the weight of passing years. Unknown to either of them, a young widow named Sarah Bennett had entered the shop moments earlier. She stopped near the doorway after hearing Thomas's final words. Having buried her own husband during a harsh winter cattle drive, Sarah understood loneliness better than most people in Ash Creek. His quiet devotion touched something deeply forgotten within her heart. Thomas politely tipped his hat, thanked Mrs. Brooks for the flowers, and stepped into the cool afternoon sunlight. Sarah watched him ride away without saying a word, his lonely figure slowly disappearing beyond the western hills. She found herself wondering how a man could carry such faithful love for so many years without bitterness replacing kindness inside him. The following Friday, Sarah arrived before sunrise carrying nothing except quiet determination and gentle hope. She stood outside the flower shop watching the empty road leading toward town, wondering whether fate sometimes brought strangers together through old heartbreak instead of happiness. Somewhere beyond those distant hills, a lonely cowboy still carried flowers, unaware that another wounded heart had begun praying for his own.